Hello, everybody. Like Jared said, I've been in digital marketing now for I think it's coming on 8 years. Um, Worked in a number of different industries. Worked with big companies, small companies, different nonprofits, e-commerce, local businesses. So I have a lot of experience in SEO, but also just kind of digital marketing generally, with things like online web analytics and online advertising. So I kind of have a good idea of how everything kind of works individually, but then how all of those things work collectively as well. And really, what this workshop, the hope of this workshop is to be able to give you guys as business owners some tools and knowledge to be able to go and do some of this stuff yourself. The reality is, like I've been there as well, having been part of a startup in the past. Money is often tight, and you might not necessarily be able to pay somebody to go and do these things. And I want to be able to give you some of that knowledge so that you can go and at least do some of these fundamental basic things to help your website. Because as we've seen in this now COVID world that we live in, online is more important than ever. And it's really important to have a good foundation for your business so that as people are trying to go to Google and look for your product and or service, we want to be able to make sure that you don't have anything that is grossly hindering your ability to rank for people who are trying to find your business. So really what today is, again, is just to try to give some insight, information, but then also show you tools that you can use. And I'll try to be as quick as I can and not belabor things too much, but trying to show you what the tools actually look like that you can go and use yourselves and how they can help your business. So that, again, you can kind of go in and do some of this stuff yourself. Also, there's going to be, I'll share my screen in just a second here. There's going to be a number of documents that I give to the accelerator teams so that once we're done here, you can go and do these things yourself. And they're very, very helpful. These are documents that I go through with most of the clients that I work with. And there's a lot of value in them. Obviously, you kind of get out of it what you put in. And I realize sometimes you might not even have the time to do this. So if ever there's a point where you see the value, you want to do these things, and you're just not really sure, how you can go about doing it, that's something that you can always message me, send me an email, and I can chat with you and try to help you figure out, the best way to approach getting some of these things done. And I realize some of you, as we'll kind of go through in a sec, I'd like to hear a bit about your business. Some of you are going to be early on. You don't have a website yet. Maybe you're working towards that. Or if you do have a website, all of the things we're going over today will be helpful regardless of what phase you're at in your business, whether it's knowing what to do so you don't make mistakes, or seeing things that you need to improve upon that you've already done with your existing site. So that's the way that we're going to go through this today. Is I have a pretty lengthy SEO audit that I go through, again, that you guys are going to get. And we're going to go through some of the key areas. I'm not going to touch on all of them because some of them aren't as important, but we'll kind of go through piece by piece. And then there's going to be a couple times where I'm going to get you to do a bit of an exercise to just kind of work through some of these things yourself. But before we get into that, why don't everybody just kind of take a couple minutes and just tell me what your business is, what you do, where you're at, just so I can get a bit of an idea of who we're working with today.
All right, so let's go. Just start with a person who's on top of my screen. So Wagner.
Hi, I'm Wagner. I am a head of Thalamus. Thalamus is a company specialized in assistive technologies for people with mobility impairments. It's pretty within my domain. I'm a clinician in neurology, and what we do is these like assistive devices for people mainly with neurologic impairments or people that are very ahead in their age, so they need assistance. The main product is a smart walker, and I think it's very fortunate to have this workshop today because I'm starting to work on my website, and I'm doing that all by myself. So I think it's very helpful. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Now, is that I'm assuming you're going to be going national, international with that product, or are you starting locally initially?
We are starting in Canada mainly, but
Canada? Okay.
eventually, yeah, I mean, anybody can buy it from anywhere, so we're gonna be shipping. But yeah,
Okay. Okay, perfect. Good to know. Thanks.
thanks.
So James or Christine or Ria? Maybe Christine?
Hey, we are Untangle Money. What we're trying to do is help women with their now money and their future money by putting them through a financial planning process that is maybe less complicated than what you'd pay for an in-person one, but targeting people that generally wouldn't qualify by way of assets under management or aren't interesting to wealth managers because they're too young. And helping them get a financial plan. And we specifically target women because their financial lives are different. And most of the products out there just aren't tailored to them. So if you use a regular financial plan, it'll set you up for failure because women don't make enough money later in life to catch up. So we do financial plans for young women that hopefully gets them investing really early, or at least helps them understand they need to invest really early. So we have a website. We're working on a version 2.0 of it, so this will be really great. It's just sort of a poster right now and kind of a way to get people to sign up for emails. So I'm excited about this session. Thank you.
Okay. Now that is a service you're providing, right? Not necessarily a product.
Yeah, it's a service as a product, I guess. Like
Okay.
we don't have a product that you can purchase, but it is a service. You go through
Okay.
it. It's a process.
And where are you servicing currently?
It'll be in Canada. We have interest internationally, but we're starting with the Canadian model because we understand the investment landscape here. Not the investment landscape here, sorry, the landscape, the vehicle landscape, like RESPs, RRSPs, we understand that. And then the OAS and CPP that people get in retirement is built into our calculator currently. We have to strip that out to go to other countries.
Okay, so you don't meet necessarily in person with people. It's like online interactions.
It's completely non-touch. So
Okay.
I think that's a big test for us is will people pay a low price for a no touch option, but get a robust financial plan at the end of it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Welcome.
Cool. Chloe and Jessica.
Hi, so I'm Chloe, and I'm sorry, a little cough. So I'm one of the co-founders of Apricotton, and we're an online brand that makes bras for tween girls, because just based on our own experience and then Jessica's younger sister who's going through this right now, we had a lot of difficulty buying bras when we were tweens, because a lot of them are actually made for more mature women, and so they're often very over-sexualized. Or you can go to kind of the department store brands, which do have smaller sizes, but those are usually very cheap quality. And so we're trying to bridge the gap in the market and kind of build a community of girls so that we can increase their confidence during puberty.
Okay. Now, are you selling currently, or is it still in development?
It's still in development, but we're planning to pre-launch November 2nd.
Okay.
And then we're planning to actually launch late November.
Okay, so do you have a site currently, or is that still being worked on as well?
We currently have a site. We're still working on parts of it, like
Okay.
the product pages and stuff, but
Yeah.
we do have a few pages up.
Okay, what are you using for your platform?
Shopify.
Okay, yep, good idea. Okay, cool, thank you.
Awesome. Simone.
Hi, I'm the co-founder of Marlo, and I'm also here with one of my other co-founders, Kiara, and we're creating the first ever lubricated tampon. So when we did a lot of customer interviews, we learned that people find they're really painful and uncomfortable to insert. And we're also going to be delivering them on a monthly basis right to the customer's door. We have a website at the moment. It's hosted on Squarespace, but we're relaunching a brand new one, and we're getting it built out by a friend. And then a large part of what we do is also blogs and sort of an educational component. So we use a lot of that content on our website.
Okay, what is the new site being built on by your friend?
Do you know Kiara? This is
I can't remember
building it out. So
Okay. Okay.
Basically, we've sort of given him some like ideas of what we want it to look like. maybe even any guidance from you of things that questions we should be asking him to make sure it's being built out on the right thing would be helpful. I would say
Yep.
it's not our area of expertise.
No, that's okay. So are you selling yet or not yet?
Not yet. We're launching in January 2021.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they
Thank
just
you.
they just wrapped up a Kickstarter campaign, so
Yeah.
A good? Are you happy with it?
Happy enough. Yeah.
Okay, good.
good. Anthony, are you there?
Yeah, my internet's been acting up a bit, but I've co-founded Clover Club. It's a VR virtual reality social hub where we try to help users connect with each other in every way. So that's the matchmaking introduction with interests, activity recommendations, event management, and it's a cross-platform device. We've got early traction in like an earlier prototype, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
So this is like a product that exists that somebody could sign up for or use right now?
Yeah. In its current right now, it's a prototype called vrlfp.net. So it's more of a dating oriented site, but we're becoming more of like a general social.
What platform or platforms are you on?
So right now it's just a website and like a kind of like a web app, mobile app.
I see.
People tend to use a VR chat, which is like a cross-platform thing to connect. And we recommend VR experiences, but based on the person's like platform.
So when you say VR experience, is that somebody putting on like a VR head, like the people putting on a VR
Yeah.
headset? Is that what you mean by that? Okay. And is that currently
So they're
working
locked
for
in.
people to do that?
Yeah. So we've just got just over 5,000 users, and those are kind of more hardcore VR users right now. It's becoming a lot more mainstream. Yeah.
Oh, cool. And how long have you had this for?
I think just a year. But we'll be
Just a year?
launching at the end of this year.
Okay, cool. Good to know. Thanks.
Michelle and Ravina, are you guys there?
Yep, we're here. Yeah, we're Michelle and Ramina. We both co-founded Flick, and we help female founders and leaders connect with ambitious female talent via meaningful apprenticeship. So these apprenticeships, apprentices volunteer their time for 10 hours or less a week for 3 months. And they help female founders scale their businesses as they gain in-depth, meaningful mentorship. So we launched in January, and we've received over 4,500 applicants from over 45 different countries, and we've matched over 1,200 women. And that's sort of the stage we're at right now. We just launched our paywall, actually, a subscription model 2 days ago. And I just got a notification. We just got our 4th paying customer. So that's super exciting. And then in terms of SEO and stuff, Michelle usually handles that, but we have different community experiences that go up usually weekly. So people just explaining their time with Flick or their apprenticeship. And so Michelle will go in on Squarespace and deal with the SEO stuff. I'm not an expert in that area, but yeah, we're super excited to listen to you and sort of see what different insights you might have for us.
Cool. Congratulations. That's exciting. So is it a subscription? So is it the startup owner who pays the subscription, and then
yeah,
that how that
exactly.
works?
So
Okay.
they pay either they can pay $60 USD a month, or if they want to go for like the annual yearly, it ends up being 50 USD a month.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, that's exciting. It means it's working.
Thanks.
Is anyone else having this problem that there's no chat in this Zoom?
Yes, we had this yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna
We
say
not
congrats.
chat.
Yeah, so Western made a bunch of changes to what's enabled for Zoom. So we don't have the chat function just yet.
Okay, then Jer, I might have to be sending you some links to forward along to everybody.
Okay.
If that's the case, I'll let you know. Here, you know what? Why don't I? I just texted to you. Is that cool?
Sure. Yeah, that works.
All right. There is one thing that I'm gonna get people to work off of just in. All right. Hoping this is the right screen. Can you guys see this one, reporting and tracking?
That's right.
That's what everybody's saying. Okay, perfect. All right. So as I said, this is a SEO audit. This is what I go through with my clients. And as you can see, it is pretty thorough, and it's designed to kind of to go through piece by piece. So this is something that I will send to Jeremy, and everybody here can kind of go and create their own copy of this. And I highly encourage you after we do this, if you have time, and I encourage you to make the time to actually go through and try and answer as many of these things as you can. And you can go through here and kind of put a pass or a fail, or if it's maybe not applicable to you. But in previous with previous companies that I've worked with in the accelerator, the ones who have gone through and actually done this have benefited greatly from it. I've followed up with and had conversations with other companies, other startups who have gone through this, and they've all said that it was a really helpful exercise, and it brought a lot of insights that they weren't really aware of. They didn't realize that some things were broken, and it helped them fix it. So we're going to go through this. I also have another document that you guys will get that we'll go through really quickly in a little bit, which is a competitor analysis document, which one thing a lot of people don't do enough of is understand who their competitors are and understand what they're doing well, what they're doing poorly, opportunities, threats. So this is a tool that allows you to be able to go through and kind of collect those insights and to see them in one place. And then another thing is a keyword research document. So what I'd like to do is go through the process of keyword research, and once we get to that in the audit, I'll explain that a little bit more, but that's probably one of the single greatest things that you could do for your business that I'd warrant that most of you haven't done yet. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more as well. And then also there's just some tools here that we'll go through as well. So the first area that, not going to spend too much time on this, but it's something that's really important, is Google Analytics. Is there anybody here who has a website who does not have Google Analytics currently set up? Or does everybody have Google Analytics? I'm going to take silence as everybody has Google.
We have one, but it's just very basic setup. Like that's all we have.
And that is fine. Here, I'm going to try to. Oh, if there's a way for me to. I can't really see. Okay, that's fine. So if you don't have Google Analytics, even a basic setup is good, because at least if it's added to your website, you're collecting data. So Google Analytics, you don't need to do anything crazy initially to be able to get valuable insights out of your website. But if you don't have a website yet, you absolutely need to create a Google Analytics account and to add it to your website. Most third-party web platforms, whether that's Squarespace or Wix or Shopify, almost all of them have in the settings an area where you can just put in your Google Analytics, and it's really simple. And you don't have to do anything after the fact, but what that allows you to do then is, as people visit your website, you then can see really valuable information like demographics, age, gender, where people are accessing your website from. So is it Canada? Is it the US? Is it Europe? Is it a specific city? Is it a province? You can start seeing, are people accessing your website from a mobile device or desktop? And then even, I'd say, well, as important as that is, where are people coming to your website from? So even like this right here, we can now see which pages on your website are actually driving traffic. So then that can be helpful for you to understand, okay, wow, this is the page that gets the most traffic. But it's not converting very well. We're not getting a lot of sales from it, or people aren't really contacting us. So what can we do about this page? Because if you go here and you find that you have a page that's getting a lot of traffic, but it's not leading to a lot of sales or leads or whatever your conversion or whatever your goal would be for your business, then you see that something has to change. So Google Analytics is an absolute essential thing that every single website needs to have. If you don't have that, the first thing you need to do after we're done this is go and make sure your website has Google Analytics. If your site's not built yet, make sure that add it prior to launching it, because you can't get that data back retroactively. So if you've had a website for the past year and you haven't had Google Analytics, then you just have to be okay with the fact that that data is gone and you won't have any insights there. So just make sure to add it. So then moving forward, you have that data so you can be able to understand that. Another thing that everybody should have is a Google Search Console. And I'm going to say that more people probably don't have a Google Search Console account because it's a little less known. But what Google Search Console is it is the place that you go to pretty much talk to Google about your website. So it is where Google will communicate to you, are there any issues that they are finding with your website, whether that's pages that have errors or issues that they're having in crawling your website, whatever it may be. It is through Google Search Console that you get that insight from Google. So if you, like in the past, I've had clients who have, Google has said to them, hey, you have a whole bunch of shady links pointing to your website. We're going to delist your entire website. It was through Search Console that you're able to identify what that issue was so that you can then go and fix it. I hope that that's not going to be the case for anybody here, but it's really important to do that. And one of the other things in Search Console that is crucial is adding your sitemap. So if I were to go to most websites, if you were to go to whatever your website is /sitemap.xml, there should be, especially with most third-party platforms, again, WordPress, Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, they're all going to have a sitemap. And then all you need to do is take that URL, whatever that is. So this one, there's a number of sitemaps, but sitemap.xml. And then when you add that into Google Search Console, you're now telling Google, hey, here are all the pages that exist on my website. If you don't do that, you're then trusting that Google is going to find all of your content, which I don't know your websites and I don't know how many pages you have, but often if you have a number of pages, sometimes some of those pages don't get indexed, as they call it. So you want to make sure that Google is aware of all of the pages that exist on your website so that you're not leaving any guesswork, you're not making Google have to try to figure it out on their own. So it's one of the easiest ways to help Google understand your website, because really at the end of the day, what you're wanting to do with your website is you want to rank as high in Google as possible when somebody is searching for your business. If people can't find you, then they're not going to come to your site unless they already know you exist or unless you pay for online advertising. And really with SEO, that is the real benefit to SEO. And for those who don't know what SEO means, it's search engine optimization. So that when somebody goes to Google and types in your business, whatever your product is, you want, maybe it's accessibility hardware, or maybe it's VR dating app. You want to make sure that when your services are being searched for, that you come up. So this is one of those ways that you're helping Google be able to do that. And everything that we're talking about today is with the aim of helping Google to prioritize your website over a competitor. Because the way that Google works is when somebody goes to Google and searches for a product or a service, they're trying to find the best result to be able to serve to that person. And they're using a whole number of different factors to really calculate whether they think you are going to be better than somebody else. So you need to, with your website, you need to do a whole slew of things to be able to communicate to Google, why should they show you over your competitor? And as we're going to go through the rest of this audit, we kind of highlight those things. But that's really what the aim of search engine optimization is. It's to be able to communicate to Google, hey, we're the ones who should be trusted. We're the ones with the best information. We're the ones with the best product. We're the one with the best service. Pick me. And everything we're wanting to talk about is communicating that to Google. And Search Console is just the way that you can really kind of keep a pulse on what Google thinks of your business.
Jordan.
Yes.
Can you? Sorry, I think I missed it. You put your website name and then sitemap in after slash. Or
yeah. So when you go to Google Search Console, you're gonna create an account first, and then you put in your URL.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some steps there that it's going to just ask you to verify. Typically, that's usually just done if you have a Google Analytics account set up using that. So like with the same email that you're trying to use to create Search Console, it will then see that you have ownership of that. And then once you have access to your Search Console with your domain, you then just go to the sitemaps and just enter in. It likely is just sitemap.xml, but just test that for yourself. But that's typically what it is. And then you just put it in there and then hit submit.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And then the last tool for right now that is worth mentioning is SEO tracking software. And this is something we're going to use when we get to keyword research as well. But this can be a really helpful tool to help diagnose your website. So there's a few different ones that exist. There's this one, Ahrefs. There's another one called Moz, M-O-Z. There's another one called SEMrush. This is the one that I have found to be the best in my experience. I've used all of them, but I really like this one. And what's really great about this is you can actually get a 7-day trial of Ahrefs for $7, which is really great because it gives you enough time to go and kind of collect some data on your site as well. So Moz also provides a free 30-day option, so you can do that as well. I just personally think Ahrefs provides the best insight, and so for $7, I think it's worthwhile. So if that is something you're interested in, you can just go to ahrefs.com, do a free trial, and then just make sure to cancel it before the 7 days, or you're going to get billed. And I know Jeremy will not reimburse for that, and neither will I. So just to remember to do that. But what this is really good for, and Jared, do you mind just sending, is there a list of everybody's websites that might be helpful at some point to have access to that? If you could just send that to me, is that possible?
I can. You want me to email that to you?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great.
Cool, no problem.
So I'm going to, so the thing that you should probably do if you do this is go to the site audit, and these are some of the clients that I work with that we've done some audits for recently. And what's really helpful here is you put in your website, and then it's going to then spit out all of the issues that exist on your website. And it breaks it down really nicely into whether there's issues that Google would be having in crawling your content. It would be looking at issues that you identify, and we're going to go into detail on what all of these things mean, but it actually breaks it down. These are the things that are really concerning. These are the things that are less so. These are things that you need to be mindful of. And then it gives you, if you click on these, the specifics on each and every one of those issues on your site. So it's a really helpful thing to do in conjunction with the SEO audit. So this is what I do with my clients is I'll put their site in here, and then I go through this SEO audit document as I'm looking at the audit report, and then kind of putting those two things together to actually put a report together to provide to a client. So it's a really helpful thing. If you don't have your website yet, then this isn't something that you're going to be able to do. But even after you launch your website, especially if you have somebody else doing it who might not be well versed in SEO, this can then be a thing that you can do just to make sure that there aren't any glaring issues. Because one of the things you want to do with your site, especially if it's new, you want to build it on a good foundation. You don't want to build it with, don't build your house on the sand, build your house on the rocks, right? So you want to make sure that you have a good foundation to build upon, and you don't want a whole bunch of issues, because then if there are a whole bunch of cracks in the ship, so to speak, all you're going to be doing, water's going to be leaking out, and it doesn't matter what you do to improve your site if you're always going to be just kind of fighting the issues that are already there. So this is a really helpful tool that can provide you that insight. And again, there are free tools that you can use. That one I really like. It's $7 for 7 days. You can probably get out of it all you would need in those 7 days. And again, just make sure to cancel it. Does anybody have any questions quickly on the reporting or tracking stuff? There's also really quickly, alongside Google Analytics, there's a tool called Google Tag Manager. That is with a bit more advanced stuff, but what's really nice with it, and I'm not going to get into it too much because it's a little bit more complex, it allows you to be really granular in tracking stuff on your website. So let's just say you wanted to, let's just say we're here whoops, and you wanted to track how many people are clicking on this button, how many people are clicking on the phone number, how many people submitted a form, how many people watched a video, Google Tag Manager can allow you to track that kind of those types of interactions on the site, which can be really helpful. So if that's something, again, that you'd be interested in learning a bit more, maybe just send me an email and I can kind of point you in the direction of resources to do that, because it's a bit more technical, but it's, again, something that's really helpful as well. Moving now to off-site issues. The biggest thing to consider here, I'm not going to worry too much about here, because it didn't sound like too many of you are focusing on like a city necessarily with who you're trying to reach. But if you are, make sure to have your business, especially if you're focusing on a particular city, having your business listed on Google, Bing Places, and Apple Maps. Those are 3 things, and Yelp. Just really important to have that with all your information on there. So if people are trying to, they go to Google Maps and they search for whatever it is that you're doing, that you come up on there as well. So that's really important. And kind of in line with that is business reviews. Again, this is more important if you're more of a local business, but it's still important to get business reviews, whether that's, I'd say the primary focus would be on Facebook or on Google. And why that is one of the things that Google looks at in terms of understanding, are you a good quality business to work with? Do you offer good products and services? Do you have positive feedback and reviews from customers? If Google sees that you have 100 reviews that are 1 star, or if they look at your Facebook profile and see that you have 100 reviews and they're all 1 star, then why are they going to suggest you over a competitor who has 100 reviews and is 5 stars? So it's important to get those reviews on Google or on Facebook. So like, if for those who aren't familiar with what that looks like, it's just this area right here, where this is where it kind of shows up. So if I was searching for a chiropractor in London and I was on Google Maps, you'd be able to see here, this is a client of mine. He's got 282 reviews, 5 stars. So Google very much looks at that and says, wow, that's really positive. He obviously is doing something right if he's been able to get 282 people to give him an average of 5 stars, and that those aren't fabricated. Like he really is that good. So if you are looking for a chiropractor, I highly recommend him and you're in the London area. But that's something that they factor into that as well. So that's important to set up. If you don't have a Google My Business account set up, go and do that. If you don't have a Facebook business page set up, go and do that. And then it's to get those reviews. It might be different for your business, but it might just be sending a follow-up email to a client and just say, hey, thanks for your business. Would you mind writing a review on Google or Facebook? Or it might look different for your business, but something just to be mindful of. That might not be as important for you guys because you're going a little bit more national and international with your reach, but something to consider at least. So now in the technical issues. So what these are, and most of the sites that I'm sure, because if a lot of you are on, whether it's Squarespace or Shopify, you probably won't have issues with no indexing. So what this really is just making sure that Google can crawl your site. You shouldn't have any issues with that. The only time that would become an issue is if you actually are manually putting on something on your site to tell Google, hey, we don't want you to do this. So as long as you don't do that, you should be okay. So don't worry too much about that. But this is something that is really important, especially for, as a few of you said, you're kind of getting updated websites. Redirects are one of the most important and neglected things for people who are building a new website. And what a redirect is, so let's say you have a page on your website that is, example.com/page A, but then you build your new website and then that page actually becomes example.com/page B. For whatever reason, it changes. Anything that has been built up in Google's eyes in terms of the value of that original page, if you don't tell them, hey, this page is now this page, all of the value gets lost with that original page that you had built. So it's really important to redirect or tell Google, hey, this page is actually over here. And it functions very similar to a mail forwarder. For those of you who have ever moved and had your mail forwarded to your new address, you need to tell Google, hey, we're over here now. And most third-party platforms have, whether it's an app or it built in already, an area where you can go in and set the redirect where you say, page A is now page B. But it's really important to do that if your URLs are changing. If your URLs aren't changing, you don't need to worry about it. But if your URL structure is changing, and this often happens if you're changing your domain from one thing to another, from one to another, or again, if just like the actual URL for that page changes. But that is something that is, I've actually seen businesses go out of business because they didn't do this properly. And an example was a manufacturing customer, and they had a different, this was when I was at the marketing agency a number of years ago, and they came to us and said, hey, we got this new site done by another company, all of our traffic's gone, can you tell us what happened? And it turns out that the URL structure changed ever so slightly, and every single one of their pages, as far as Google was concerned, was seen as a brand new page, and all of the 15 years of value that had been built up, it was completely gone. And then by the time we identified the issue and fixed it, it was actually too late. And I don't even know if they're in business anymore, but it was like catastrophic to their business. So you guys are early enough along that it's not an issue, but it's in the future as well. This is definitely something to be mindful of, because it's, just people don't really know about it. And along with that as well is when you do change URLs, because you're often going to, or let's just say you get rid of a page, it's going to lead to that page just as far as Google's concerned isn't going to exist anymore. So it's going to show a 404 error, and so then that's going to be something that looks like this. And when Google sees this, they're like, well, that's not very helpful. And if you have a whole bunch of those pages that are 404 errors, they're going to see that as you're not providing a valuable experience, you're not providing helpful information or helpful content, we're going to deprioritize you over someone else. So it's important to, again, set up those 301 redirects. Does anybody have any questions on either of those two things before I keep going? Okay, perfect. So then the next area that I want to touch on is website architecture. And this is important from both a Google perspective, but it's also helpful from a user and navigation perspective. And it's trying to answer the question of, is your website structured in a way that is logical and that it's easy to follow? So as a user, when I go to your site, am I able to navigate in a logical, clear way to find the content that I'm trying to find? Does your hierarchy make sense in a way that I can logically find what I'm looking for by going through your main site's navigation? And that's also helpful for Google because it helps them contextualize information. So if you have a high level page, and then, so even, let's just go to Riverside Chiropractic here. So this is a fairly clear and concise, home about services, and underneath the services, chiropractor, acupuncture. So when Google comes to this page and they see that the parent page is services and that the child pages, as they're kind of called, are chiropractic, acupuncture, massage therapy, and naturopathy, they know that, okay, these aren't just general pages about chiropractic. These are actual chiropractic services that are being offered. These are acupuncture services. This isn't just a page that's talking about what is acupuncture. It's talking about, okay, these are actual services being offered. And that is important to communicate to Google that, he's actually offering this as a service. It's not just an information site. So, and it's important because semantics is important with Google. Google's really smart, but you want to try as much as you can to communicate to Google what you're actually doing specifically, and not just, chiropractic. It's no, these are chiropractic services, because those are very different things. He's never going to rank just for the term chiropractic, because you're going to compete against things like WebMD or Mayo Clinic or all these other things that would be talking about broadly chiropractic. But something like chiropractic services, that then starts looking at, okay, who are the providers of chiropractic services, instead of just these big, broad chiropractic pages, if that makes sense to everybody. I'm taking silence as agreement. So So yeah, that is just something to be mindful of. And as we go, we're going to go and do some keyword research, and you'll hopefully start seeing how your site structure can be optimized based on how people are searching. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Sorry, just give me a sec. Jerry, you did there. Perfect. Is there anybody who is brave enough for this next part? So as we go in here, we're going to go and now look at page load times. So if there's anybody who really doesn't want me to do this with their website, maybe say so now, because I'm going to put it through a page speed test to see how you currently are doing. So silence again. I'm going to just randomly here. Let's see here. Clover it is. So the next area that we're looking at is page load times, and it's looking at how quickly your site loads, how resource intensive it is. And the reason why this is really important is the harder, or sorry, the longer it takes to load a page, in Google's eyes, the worse the user experience is. So if I go to your site and it takes 5 seconds or 10 seconds to load, the likelihood of me staying is going to be really low, because I think the average time that somebody's willing to wait for a page to load is like maybe around 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, they're gonna go somewhere else. So if you have a site that has giant images and is super big, so it actually takes a long time to load, that can seriously inhibit user experience, which that is a factor that ranks, or that is considered in your site's ability to rank as well. So the longer it takes, that will negatively impact the business. So let's take a look here. I'll maybe put a couple through so I'm not just picking on one person. So this tool right here, Google Page Speed Insight, look at you. That's great. No need to be worried. So this tool, Google Page Speed Insights, it will let you know how your site is performing on both mobile and desktop. Wow. Yeah, you're a rock star. Good man. So this site is doing really well. And if it wasn't, it would show down here some things that could be done to improve the actual load times. So now I'm gonna just pick somebody else.
Our page speed, or our thing is 7. 7.
So which platform are you on? Is it Squarespace?
It's Wix.
Wix. Okay, yeah. So and what this will do is expose some of the serious deficiencies of these third-party tools. And unfortunately, so here's even one right now, 44 on mobile, 88 on desktop, so better on desktop. But again, we can kind of see here some things that can be fixed. And the problem with those third-party tools is they tell you, yes, they're really easy to use, as I'm sure you guys have experienced. They're really, you can quickly get a site thrown together. And they tell you that it's SEO optimized. It is not. And so with a tool like Wix or a tool like Squarespace, there are things that you just can't do. And it's just by nature of the code being kind of messy. And when you build something that's really drag and drop and is super easy to use, with that comes compromises. So you just can't really do a ton in order to fix some of those issues. There are some things that are within your control, like making sure that when you add an image to your website, you don't just download it from some stock photo website and upload it at 4,000 pixels wide. Making sure that you actually go and export it at a reasonable size and at a reasonable clarity, and don't have it at 100%. There's some things that you can do to reduce that. This is a little bit more helpful if you have a bit more control over your site. If it's something that is either custom or something like on WordPress, I really like WordPress because you have a bit more control. It's a little bit more, I don't want to say advanced, because it's not that advanced, not like building something custom, but at the very least, this might be showing that you might want to in the future consider going to an option that's not just one of those really quick drag and drop page builders. And they market it really well. They're pretty affordable. They're pretty easy to use, and they're good for getting started, but there are some serious issues. I have yet to find a Squarespace site that performed well on SEO, or Wix. So just something to be mindful of in the future. But again, there's not much you can do necessarily, but it just shows that there are some issues there. So I think it is still helpful to put it through here just to get a sense of where things are at. Again, this is showing use properly sized images, use proper formats for your images. So sometimes if you're exporting just a standard photo, don't do it as a PNG, do it as a JPEG, because PNGs are significantly bigger. There are a number of different things that you can kind of have a bit of control over, but again, just a helpful way to just get a sense of where things are at. Anybody have any questions with that?
Ours was actually built on Shopify. So do you find that it's also common on Shopify?
Yeah, Shopify is kind of the same. I think Shopify is a little bit better just by default, but unfortunately, again, there's not much you can really control with it. And I think though, for the most part, like from what I've had experience with, like Shopify performs pretty well. And one of the things that's good with Shopify is, even though, like, let's say you might have big images, they use content delivery networks, which is like all of the image assets and videos are hosted on a separate server. So the page, it's not loading all of it at once. So they do some smart things with Shopify that they might also do with Squarespace and Wix, but it just, in my experience, Shopify can perform better. And I think you have a little bit more say in terms of fixing it. Wix and Squarespace and other ones like that are a little bit harder to do that. And the last one in this section, is there anybody here who's looking with their website to target multiple languages? Okay, so we won't worry about that.
We might in the future.
In the future, okay. So this part right here, the href lang, this is just important to consider in the future, where you're telling Google, hey, this is the same website, but it exists in English or French or English and Spanish or whatever. So that's just code that gets added. Just something to be mindful of in the future. But if it's not something that's immediate, you don't have to worry about it too much, but just come back and take a look at this when you're doing that to see where or why that's important.
Does it automatically translate for you or no?
No, well, so there is a tool that actually so this is my church's website that I just built, and there's actually a third-party tool that you can get now, and it's actually fantastic, where you got to pay monthly for it, but it actually will automatically translate, and it uses a number of the different translation engines. So what Google, Bing, and kind of does what seems to be a pretty accurate translation. But then what's great is you can actually then go in and edit this. So if this isn't exactly right, you can go in and make the changes, and it will save that, and it'll show what your custom thing is. And that's a tool for those interested called Weglot. I think it can be used on most platforms, I'm pretty sure. I know it works really well with WordPress, but this is a really great tool, and it will automatically add that multi-language tag to your site as well. So that's something to consider. And then the last one, this is pretty typical now on most sites, but in case it's not by default, make sure to have HTTPS. So when you go up to like the URL here, you want to make sure that it's secure. If a site does not have HTTPS, Google will deprioritize it. They want to see that a site is secure, that user data is secure, that you've taken steps to, prevent cyber attacks or anything like that. So having a valid security certificate is really important. Usually that's done either at your host where your website's hosted, or through your domain wherever you purchase it, GoDaddy or whatever else it may be. If you did it through Squarespace or Wix or Shopify, typically those are going to do it automatically for you, so not a big issue. But if you're doing it yourself and setting it up, make sure to have a valid what's called SSL certificate, because otherwise your site will not rank very well. So just something to keep in mind. Does anybody have any questions regarding the technical aspects that we kind of looked at?
Hey, Jordan, sorry.
Yes.
A quick question on SSL certificates. I turned my video on, but I'm actually in bed. I'm not very healthy. Is there a difference between a self-signed certificate versus one that we might pay for, like an enterprise or a domain DB, EV, that kind of stuff? Different grades. Is there really any value to paying for an SSL certificate?
Well, so in terms of the different types of security certificates, I don't think there's a huge difference. And a lot of them, if what you have is securing the site, then I personally have not seen any value in paying for anything beyond just kind of the basics. Now, I do not pretend to be a server or hosting genius. I often outsource that stuff because I'm terrified of all of it. But I have not seen there to be any reason to not just use whatever the basic would be.
Cool. And that would be a self-signed essentially. There's a bunch of free certificate issuing authorities.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
awesome.
what I have used with clients in the past, and I have not had any issues.
That's great. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So now we're getting into keyword or target keywords. And Jared, did I send that document to you? I did. Okay. It looks like some people are in here already. So target keywords. I'm going to go to the site that I helped build. So this is probably the most important thing that you could get out of today, is understanding target keywords and how they relate to your website, and understanding why they're so important. So I had sent to Jer, so I see there's a few people in that document. If everybody could go and open up that document for me, because what I would like everyone to do, even just to take maybe like 5 to 10 minutes maybe, put your business name in the top cell up here. And down below, I'd like you to type in what you think people would use when they go to Google to search for your business. What are they using? If I go to Google and I want to find you, what would I type in? So if you could just put your business name up top here, and then down below, list as many as you can. And let's just maybe give you, 5 or 6 minutes to do that, if that's cool. And then we'll kind of carry on from there. So I'm just going to mute myself for a quick second. And if you guys want to do that, you can go ahead. Okay, looks like we have a good amount. Oop. Just gonna take a look here and see what you guys have. Okay, all right, so I'm just gonna, I don't know if anybody's added any in a little bit. So what I want to do is just kind of go through and kind of work through maybe some of these things to try to help you guys better understand, what keywords you should be, what keywords that you should be actually kind of focusing on. So even if we go over here and we look at Apricotton, so the business offers like bras for tweens. So having something even just as broad as tween, that could bring up any number of that could be tween news websites, tween gossip. It could be, what is a tween, or tween shoes, or tween videos, whatever it is. So not that you wouldn't want to use the word tween, but something more like tween, or like teen bra, or adjustable bra. Those would be the things that you'd really want to be focusing on. So even if we use this right here, so Ahrefs, this allows us to go and do that keyword research here. So let's even go type in here tween bra, and even how about teen bra. And so we're gonna look, we'll just look in Canada because that's where most of us are. So then what this tool does is we can then go and start seeing what types of keywords are available that are related to, okay, so some of this might be mildly inappropriate, but let's just look past that. So even right here, so now we see teen sports bra. We see young teen bra, maybe that's a better way of doing it, or sports bras for teens. These are now getting to be more specific for what you're actually offering, not just tween or teen, but rather the teen sports bra. Again, because you're not going to be able to rank just for the word tween, but you're more so wanting to focus on whether it's adjustable sports bras for tweens, or tween sports bras, or tween training bras. And even so, now let's go and look at, so even over here with Untangle Money, you're going to be talking about budgeting, you're going to be talking about financial planning, but really the service that you're offering is financial planning for women, or female financial help, or something like that. So it's important when you think about your keywords, what are the things, like what specifically am I going to use when I go to Google and expect for your business to come up? Because if I just type in budget, there's no way that you're gonna show up for the word budget. But what you can do is you could very likely rank for, so let's even go here and just type in like female financial planning, and let's see. Okay, so there's nothing for that one specifically. It says go all keyword ideas. Okay, so that's not something that's coming up. So bad example there. But just to give you a bit of an idea, so like the startup that I was part of in the past was called Wing Deals. It was a website to help people find chicken wing deals across North America. So for us, if I were to just type in chicken wing, well, there are a lot of different things that are going to come up when I search for chicken wing. Oh, please, in a second. So we're going to get things like chicken wing recipes. We're going to find specific restaurant. We're going to find people looking how to cook chicken wings in the oven. how to cook chicken wings, how to bake chicken wings, different types of wings, recipes, sauces. None of that is really what we were looking for, because for us, we weren't wanting to show people how to make wings. We weren't wanting to show people, the different types of cooking methods. We wanted to help people find chicken wing deals. So that's where either putting in chicken wing deals or wing deals. Now, when we go and we look, we can now see all of the different types of wing deal terms. So something like wing deals in Toronto, wing deals in London, Wednesday night wing deals, Thursday night wing deals. So now this is far more relevant to what we're actually looking for. So that's why, the site's not up anymore. But when we did, we had pages that were wing deals in Toronto, wing deals in London, Wednesday night wing deals, because those are what people are searching with. Just having chicken wings all over our website, that wasn't very helpful in communicating to Google that we were a chicken wing deal website. So we needed to make sure that we had the terms chicken wing deals or wing deals and the days of the week, because that's what people were actually searching with. Again, not to say that you can't have the term budget or you can't have the term financial planning, but when you get into setting up your service pages or your product pages, you want to make sure that you're being as kind of explicit as possible. And kind of a further example of that, if we just even go back to Riverside Chiropractic here, and I go and look at his chiropractic page, right? It's not just chiropractic, it's chiropractic treatment. And if we go and look at acupuncture, it's not just acupuncture, it's acupuncture treatment. So we're not talking specific, like broadly about acupuncture. We're looking for, this is a page about people who want to get treated for acupuncture. So it's really important to properly understand what people are searching with and make sure your website reflects that. And that has a few different, like there are a few other reasons for why that is really important. One of them is when I go to Google and I were to look for, so even this is another company that I did some work with. If I am using the keywords that people are searching with, I'm now going to have, when I have this page right here, so when you come up on Google, you want to make sure that you're using the terms that people are searching with, so that when I see it right here, it's now bolded, it stands out a little bit more, it's right here in the title. So now there's going to be a higher chance and a higher likelihood of me clicking on this, because it's now containing the keywords that I was using, rather than whatever terminology that you just thought should go there. And a really good example of why keyword research is important is one of my previous clients was the American Brain Tumor Association. And there's a few different ways that you can call something non-cancerous. You can say it's a non-cancerous, you can say it's malignant, non-malignant, or benign. And I forget which one they were using, but the one that they were using had, let's just say, 1,000 searches per month. And I believe it was, and then with the other one, the other way people were searching had like 10,000. So it was 10 times the amount of search traffic that was coming. So here they were using the phrasing that they had used for years, not realizing that it wasn't actually the way people were searching for them. So it's really important to understand how people are actually searching, and not just using the terminology and phrasing that you're accustomed to, because Google wants to see that there is an association between your website and what somebody is searching with. So if I'm looking for a well water softener and Google sees, oh, wow, this business has a page that says well water softeners. Oh, okay, there's an association there. So this is probably what that person is looking for. So again, it's really important. So Google understands what your page is about, but this then has an impact, because if I now click on this, it's now going to say to Google that, okay, there was a level of relevance there, and it's going to better impact your website. If you rank up here, but nobody clicks on it, over time, Google's going to say, okay, nobody really cares about you. So then it's going to start moving you down the list. So it's really important to understand how people are searching and that you're using the proper terms that people would actually be using. Does anybody have any questions regarding keyword research?
Yeah, since we didn't come up with any hits for Untangled, does that just mean we need to find out how women are searching in Google to help with their money, or is it also maybe that there's just so many incumbents?
So if we want to go, so let's go back here and say like, so financial help, financial. So in this tool, if you put a comma, you can add multiple terms. Just if you're wondering, financial help, financial planning. So then,
can I afford? Just curious.
I'm going to search here. So in terms of the can I afford, you're going to get a whole bunch of mortgage related questions, rent type questions. So what you then can do is if you click on this include, you can then put in here a word that it'll filter it based on that word being there. So let's just say you want to put women. So there are women in financial planning for women. So there's not a huge amount in Canada. You see that there's a little bit more globally, but there's not a ton for specifically with that term women. But even if you put woman, so there's nothing there. Let's try female. Okay, so nothing there. But as you can see, you can kind of go through this process and try to understand it. It might be a little bit harder in that particular instance because there might not be people searching in that way. Like it might not be somebody going and saying like, specifically, I'm a woman wanting financial help. I don't know, but that's something that you might just find is that there aren't people necessarily aware that that's even really a thing. So just as like as another, I guess, suggestion or something to consider, that might be something more in terms of like running a small Facebook ad campaign so that you can then target women, and then your messaging can say, you know, financial help for women by women or something like that. So that's a way that you can target, because with Google, there's no way really to target demographics for people searching. All you can go off of is the actual words that people are putting in there. So it might be better, especially if you're wanting to target a specific demographic, to reach those people using Facebook or something else, or Instagram is also another good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if, and so I also have, this is something I'll send along as well. This is a keyword research example document that, again, I send to my clients, and it's just set up so that you can kind of use this, and it allows you to kind of group your keywords. And that's one thing that's really important to do, is you want to have your keywords grouped by, you know, similar themes or product or services. So maybe that's, you know, retirement planning for women, and that's one thing where it's going to be a group where it's talking about retirement planning, or maybe it's RES or RRSPs for women, or mutual funds for women, whatever it may be. But it's kind of breaking those down into logical categories, so then you can see all the keywords that relate to that particular topic. So that's something else I'll provide to you guys, so you can have that. So if people don't have any other questions on that, the next area in this that is important is being mindful of where you need to now use those keywords. So we just kind of identified there's a need to understand what your target keywords are for each and every page, but then on each page, there are certain places that you're going to want to make sure that those keywords exist. And that's going to be in places like, where'd it go? Here. Right. You want to make sure that your URL contains your keyword. So that the keyword here being well water softeners, it's there in the URL, well water softeners. It's here in your heading, your H1, which in any third-party backend, it's just going to be likely the title of the page. This is going to be where you're going to want to put that. And the H1 is really crucial, because this is really telling Google this is what the page is about. And then also your what are called your meta title and your description, which in most third-party builders, it's going to be a section probably at the bottom of the page where it allows you to go in and add in your meta title, which is this section right here, and then your meta description, which is right here. And not sure why that's getting truncated, but it allows you to then write it in, and so that you're making sure that it's, you know, including the keywords that you want. So those are all important areas to make sure where you're using your keywords as well. And then also just making sure you have content on your page. And this is something that often can get people into trouble, is they might create a page and they don't have enough content on there. As a rough rule of thumb, you want to try to have about 350 words on a page. Otherwise, Google just kind of sees that as not being particularly helpful. So again, with all of these things, it's kind of a balance between science and art when it comes to your website. And there's going to be times where it just doesn't really make sense to add content. So you don't want to force it, but at the same time, you also want to make sure that you're providing something that Google would see as being valuable to a user. So there's a bit of a leave it to your discretion in that regard, but if there's opportunity to add more content, I would say do it, but don't do it at the expense of just adding content. You want to make sure that you're providing information that is valuable, that is helpful, because at the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, am I doing something that a user would say, wow, that was helpful, or wow, that was valuable. Yes, I'm going to call them. Yes, I'm going to buy from them. If that's not the case, then you have to ask, does this page need to exist? Does this content need to exist? Otherwise, it probably doesn't if it's not providing any value. So that's just kind of a rough rule of thumb, 350 words roughly. And then also just asking yourself, what types of content exists on your website? What types of content should exist on your website? And this is where going and doing a competitor analysis, I think, is really helpful. So this is, again, a document that you can go through. You don't have to worry about doing all of it. Some of this is helpful, and I don't want to belabor this point too much. If people want to go through this and have questions on what things actually mean, I can do that, but just with our limited time, I'd say this right here is probably the biggest and the most important area to consider. And just looking at your competitors and seeing, okay, what are they doing? What aren't they doing? What are they doing well? What are they doing poorly? What opportunities are there? So typically what I do when I do this for a client is I'll go to their website and just say, okay, you know, what's on here? What do we got? What are they doing well? You know, I'm biased in saying, oh, wow, this is, you know, pretty clean looking website, a lot of information here. Okay, that's pretty good. I think pretty sure he has, yeah. You know, he's got a blog. So there's some helpful information here. So it's helpful to go and look at your competitors, see what they're doing. Is their website well built? Does it look nicer than your website? Does it have more content than your website? Are they using a lot of videos? Do they have a lot of customer testimonials? Is it easy to navigate to the checkout? Do they have a helpful FAQ section? Just there's a number of different things that you can glean from looking at your competitors and just saying, okay, what are they doing well and what can we copy? And don't feel bad about copying, because if they're doing something well, then just do it as well. So this document, even just like putting it into a place where you can see and compare and just be honest about yourself and just see like, we're not doing this very well. Or, you know, you put it through the page speed thing and wow, you know what, it's way better than ours. Maybe we need to consider switching to a different platform. Or, you know, wow, they've got a really robust blog section. Wow, we don't have anything. Maybe we need to start doing that. It's in going through that process of looking at your competitors that you can then start to see, okay, we need to fix this. We need to improve on it. And another area where this Ahrefs tools is really helpful is if you go over here to the Site Explorer, and if you put in your competitor, you can then see what keywords that they are currently ranking for. So if you go haven't actually looked at that. So we'll just go right here. So then you can start seeing where they're ranking and for what keywords. So he's obviously getting a lot of traffic for his own brand name, which is not surprising. But then you see that, oh, for chiropractor London, Ontario, he's 12th, he's 20th for massage therapy London, Ontario, chiropractors in London, Ontario, chiropractor London. So now, or London, Ontario naturopath. So you can start seeing here as you go through and look at your competitors, you can see what keywords that they are ranking for, which then can be helpful for you because you might not even realize, oh, wow, yeah, we want to rank for that as well. And then you can see what kind of content they have on their website. And then you can start doing those efforts to try to improve upon where they're at. But this is just really helpful insight so that you understand who you're really competing against. And it's also helpful to know that it's not just people who are direct competitors, because I've had a number of, accelerator companies say, oh, we don't, we're brand new, we don't have any competitors. That might be true in the like direct competitor sense, but there are other companies that are vying for your customers, whether that's, specifically looking to sell, just your specific product or service, but what alternative is there and what are they doing well? So that's something to be mindful of as well, because everybody has somebody, like very few people are operating in a space of one where there's literally not some other alternative to what you're offering. That may be the case. I won't, paint with too broad a brush, but that's typically the case where there's at least something out there, someone out there who somebody could go to instead of you. So again, this is just a helpful way to kind of put everything together and just a good exercise to go through, even at the very least, if you just do this part right here, where you're looking at where are their strengths, where are their weaknesses, what opportunities do you see based on those things, but then what threats, have they been around for 20 years and you're brand new? Well, you might have a hard time competing against them, or maybe they're running ads on every single platform. Okay, wow, they're going to have a much larger reach and stronger brand recognition than you will. So that's going to be something that might be hard to overcome. It's just those types of things to consider as you're going through and looking at that. And just, again, if they're doing something well, do it as well. If they're using video and it would be something that would be helpful, start using video. Again, it has to make sense for your business, but it's just something it's a helpful thing to go through. But along the lines of content, don't just duplicate stuff. This could be a big temptation where you find something on another website and just copy and paste. Do not do that, because then Google's going to penalize you because it's not original. You're not putting any of your own insight or knowledge into anything if you're just stealing from other people. At least that's how they're going to perceive it. They're going to see you as just stealing from people. So you don't want to do that. Make sure that your content is unique. Make sure that even on your own website, you don't want to have the same content being repurposed on a number of different pages. You want to make sure that you're creating original, unique content for every page. Now, there's going to be instances where you might have a little blurb where it's like, hey, contact us now. That type of thing's not a big deal, but it's more about the idea of not just copying and pasting text from one page to another generally. So anybody have? Yeah, of course.
Sorry, just because there's no chat function,
yeah,
didn't mean to interrupt, but what if it's like the legal privacy policy section?
So that is pretty boilerplate, and most sites have that. Like, that's not really a big deal. And on that, you should probably, you're gonna replace, because there's only so many ways you can have a privacy policy.
Yeah.
But in that, there should be things like where it's mentioning your company name, it's mentioning your contact info. Typically with a privacy policy, as long as it's, make sure that it's your company info being in there. But yeah, because with Shopify, whoever's using Shopify, they have like a tool that automatically creates one for you. So it's the same one across the board. Yeah, what is it? Shopify privacy policy generator. Yeah, so if you go to Google and do that, and then you just click on that, it'll actually create one for you. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's so good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, that's not a huge deal. Just trying to think in the interest of time. Okay, so mobile, I'm going to say there's very few people here who would be having a website that's not mobile. If you're doing something custom, make sure it's mobile responsive. All of the third-party platforms will automatically do this likely. If you do not have a mobile responsive website, you will not rank when people search on a mobile device. So it's really that simple. Google does not want to provide a desktop experience on a mobile phone, and you won't even show. So that's something, if you're doing that yourself, just make sure that that's being done. Not gonna worry about that. Again, we already talked about images. Just make sure your images aren't huge. And actually, there's a really helpful tool if you don't have any like photo editing experience. This is a really good tool. It's called Imagify, and you can just, I believe you can buy just like a chunk of optimizations. Yeah, so you can do just like one-time things. So for like 10 bucks, you can optimize 10,000 images. And what that does is it actually compresses the images so that it's not going to take up a huge amount of space. And this works really well. So you just drag your image on and it'll output at a significantly reduced file size. So again, for those who might not be editing their own photos in Photoshop or some other photo manipulating tool, this is a really great way of doing it. So it's gonna compress the file, and it can save upwards of like 90% of the file size, which is really helpful. So just make note of that in the future. Imagify, that is a very cheap and very helpful tool that you can use. Now, quickly, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I think it is helpful mentioning link building. I'm going to assume that most of you have not gone through a link building process. And so link building previously was like when Google kind of started, that's what really set Google apart and what allowed them to grow in popularity and their effectiveness was how they crawled the internet and how they understood what a page was about and whether something was, as they said, authoritative. And it was the links that were pointing to their website. So Google looked at, okay, who was linking to this website, and the more links pointing to a website and who those links were from, that was considered to be more authoritative. So if Joe Blow's blog was trying to compete against the Globe and Mail, the Globe and Mail would rank higher because there were so many more websites pointing at the Globe and Mail. There were much more reputable websites pointing at the Globe and Mail. So one of the things that Google still looks at when it comes to whether or not to rank a business is who is linking to them. And it's kind of, think of it similar to, like a social media like or retweet or something like that, where if you're getting the endorsement of an influencer, then very likely their audience, it's their kind of stamp of approval or their endorsement or recommendation of you. So then you're now benefiting from their reputation, their audience, their their history. And so now you're kind of reaping the benefits of that person's recommendation. And link building is very much the same way. So if you were to get a link from, let's just say you're part of some industry association, that link, because it's so relevant to your business, is going to have an impact over whether your business ranks for a particular term. So, the example for like Riverside Chiropractic here, he has a link from, I believe it was, the best businesses of 2018, 3 rated. So there's a page that they have where they link to him. So now he has a link from this really high quality association that's providing these business reviews. That then tells Google, okay, there's something about this business that is quality, and then something even like Aquatel, which is, where'd that go? Yeah. We got a link when I was working for him there. There was a resource page from the University of Southern California where they were talking about water treatment. Well, water treatment is exactly what they sell. And to get a link from a high quality website like the University of Southern California that was talking about water treatment, that to Google, that was extremely relevant from a relevant and high quality source. that then significantly increased the authority or the perceived value of this website. So the thing that you need to consider, whether you have your business is operating right now or whether you're looking to, is you need to consider, okay, where are places that I can get links pointing to my website? Because the way that Google crawls the internet is via links. So when Google goes to one page and then there's 10 links pointing to other websites, it's now going to crawl those 10 links and then so on and so forth. So it uses links to navigate from page to page to page and from website to website. So you need to have links set up so that Google can crawl from those sites to identify your site. And for you, that might, that's going to involve things like your social media profiles, whether you have a Facebook business page, if you have a Google My Business page, you can add links there. Maybe it's a directory of, so let's just say for the VR dating app, if there's a storefront where people can go and download that application, if there's like a developer section where it's like, okay, look at, a link to the developer website, or maybe it's a blog that's, talking about, women, female empowerment, and links to different businesses that work with women, or, or possibly there's maybe an article about, female founders, and then, the challenges of, maybe starting out early on or finding good quality talent, whatever it may be. There's going to be those content things out there. There's going to be websites, and then you need to try and find those websites to be able to then try to get links. Some of those are going to be difficult. Some of them are going to be really easy, like your social media, but it's something that you need to be mindful of and just think about, okay, where are some places that I'd be able to get a link? And some of those, again, are going to be really obvious, like social media. It might be maybe you're part of an industry association, or maybe whatever it may be, and it's going to look very different for different businesses, but it's just something to be mindful of and to be thinking about. But then a way that you can identify some of those are, again, in this tool, Ahrefs, you can then go and see, okay, where are your competitors getting links from? So this is one of the things that I always do with my clients, is to go, and so here he's got, even for him, he's got a 411 listing. He has he's a vendor at the Western Fair District here in London. He's got, so there's just different business directories that he's part of, the three best. And then so even if we would go to Aquatel here, we can see some of the links that he has. So yeah, so the Water Quality Association. There's kind of a product thing for reviews or purchases. Anyways, this is really helpful so that if you're probably asking the question, what the heck, where do I even start? How do I even find these things? This is the best way to try and help identify what types of links you can get, especially looking at a company that's maybe been around for a while. If you have competitors that have been in the industry longer, go and look at them and see what they're doing, because likely over time they have acquired links to their site. There's going to be a lot of garbage. That just is the nature of it, but there's going to be probably some really helpful things that you can find there as well. So again, link building is kind of a laborious task, but it is important. So if it is something that, again, you have questions about, just let me know, and I can try to point you in the direction of trying to sort through that as well. Does anybody have questions about link building before we get into I think this is before we get into our last section here? Okay, so the last part is usability. And this is looking at how people navigate your website, because a part of the way Google determines, again, whether something is worth showing to a user is, does your site provide a good user experience? And it looks at a number of different things to kind of gauge whether that's whether it is a good experience. It looks at, Is it mobile responsive? So if I'm on a mobile device, does that, is the experience tailored to the device that I'm on? Does it load well, as we discussed previously? And even like site architecture. But there are things that you need to be kind of considering with your website also in terms of like the structure of the site. So you need to ask yourself questions like, okay, I'm a user, I come to this website, what does this site want me to do? And here it's very clear, book chiropractic now, click here. I want to book now, over here, book now. So right here, right in the top section here, we're making it very clear on this site that the ultimate goal is we want them to book an appointment. So you need to ask yourself with your website, is the goal that you have for your users clear? If it's not, they're then going to not necessarily know what to do next. They're not going to know, where do I go? And it's the idea of a funnel where you start at the top of your funnel, you get people in and you want to whittle them down to get them to do your ultimate goal on your website. And whether that's buy something, or you want them to contact you, or you want them to download some guide or a PDF, or maybe there's a video you want them to watch, whatever it may be, whatever your goal is, you want to make sure that you're getting them in an efficient way to that ultimate goal. And so you need to ask yourself, okay, are we doing that? And that could be, do you have clear calls to action? Like, do you have on your site, shop now, buy now, book an appointment, download this guide, whatever it may be for your business. You need to make sure that you are communicating to them along the process, okay, this is what I want you to do. And you want to make it as easy as possible for them to be able to do that. And there are a number of things to consider, such as, your goals. And that's something that maybe you haven't even considered for your business. What are the goals that you have? And there can be various levels of goals. So I kind of call them primary goals and secondary goals. So a primary goal, let's just say for an e-commerce website, would be you want to buy them something. That is the ultimate goal, is you want them to buy something. A secondary goal might be, contacting customer support. It might be, visiting the FAQ page, or clicking on a phone link, or submitting a contact form. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's you want them to download this guide, or again, watch a video, any number of things. So it's really helpful to sit down and establish, okay, what are our goals, so that your website is designed to be effective in that goal. Because, just building a pretty website, okay, that's one thing, but if it's not actually helping facilitate whatever your goals are, then it's not actually a very effective website. And that's often a thing that a lot of businesses kind of get into trouble with, is, oh, this is pretty, oh, I like how this looks, but it's not actually very effective. So it's about making sure that everything is working towards your goal, because there's no point having a pretty site if it doesn't do anything for you. So it's kind of getting in that mindset of, okay, how are we helping people get to that ultimate goal? Another thing that's important is having clear contact methods where is appropriate. Is it easy for somebody to ask you a question? Because that's often a challenge. If people, they can't find what they're looking for, or they have a question and they can't find an answer, is it easy for them to be able to find you? Can they call you? Is there a chat functionality? Do you have an FAQ section which would answer that question? Making sure that those things are clear and accessible, and ultimately helping, because you want to keep people on your site. You don't want them to be confused and then go somewhere else, because likely if they click back, they're not coming back. So you want to make sure that you keep them on your site, and you can try to keep them there and continue to work them towards that funnel. So there's a really, really cool tool that I'd like to just spend a couple minutes looking at. That this is something that is incredibly helpful. And let me just go to the right one. So here, this is a good example. So there's a tool called Hotjar, and what this allows is for you to get some really helpful insights into, oh, it's not gonna, here, let's see. Oh, did delete them. Okay. All right, so that's been deleted. Anyways, so what this tool allows you to do is it actually allows you to set up a few different ways of understanding user behavior. And one of those is a heat map or a click heat map and a move or scroll heat map. So what this is really helpful for is if you set up this heat map, you can then see on your website where people are clicking and how often they're clicking. So if we were to go and look at this site right here and we were to see, okay, there's these buttons here, but are people even clicking on them? Maybe they're blending in too much because the header's blue, the text is blue, this is blue. There's a lot of blue here. Are people actually clicking on it? Well, to be able to answer that question, you'd be able to go here and create a heat map and be able to then go and see, oh, wait, people aren't really clicking on it a ton. Maybe we just need to change the button color. And maybe that's just as easy, like the simple thing that you need to do is change this color from blue to orange, maybe, so then it stands out more. You wouldn't know that if you didn't set it up to test that. And Hotjar has a free plan where you can actually set up those tests. I'm trying to remember, thought I had one relatively, maybe I don't. Thought I had one that I just set up recently. And then so another one is a scroll map. So this will then show you, okay, how far down the page is your user scrolling? So if I were to go here, and in that there's going to be the overlay where it shows, the different colors, and you might find that people are only actually scrolling down to like this section right here, but all of this section down here, no one's actually going to. So that can be helpful then for you to realize, okay, wow, we need to actually clean up this homepage. We don't need all this stuff on here. Maybe it is in fact too long. And a lot of the times with websites, that is the case where it's just, you have too much content. That then is going to make the homepage load slower, which then could impact, load times, which then could impact whether somebody sticks around. So if you have a page that's too long, you're going to have a lot of resources that are now having to be loaded in. And that might then be something that you can fix by removing a lot of that content from the homepage. Again, you're not going to know that unless you actually set this up and you can go through and see where people are scrolling. The most, I'd say, insightful thing you can do with this is you can actually set up user recordings where it will actually record a user's screen and you can actually watch them click around, scroll around, see what they're doing, where are they going, so that you can, it's like getting that, you're pretty much doing a virtual focus group where you're seeing how people are actually interacting with the site. Because you might have an idea of, oh, this is super easy, I love how it's designed, and oh, look how easy it is to scroll here. But in using it, you might find that, oh wow, people aren't really seeing, like, why aren't they going down further? Why, like, what are they getting stuck at? Maybe they're just reading this and they don't actually need to go further down because maybe this is enough for them to be able to be like, yeah, sure, I want to contact them. And it kind of breaks it down by device. So you can look on a mobile device versus a desktop. But that's really helpful and insightful information that would be really hard to get 1,000 people, or I think it's 300 you get for the free plan, 300 people to use your website and to kind of watch them over their shoulder and make notes. Whereas now you can just add it to your website and you can then you can just see how people are interacting with it and make notes. And this is actually like a great example of how this works, how this helps. We had a client I previously worked with here in London. They sold or rented party supplies. And so they went and we redid their website. Everything was great. They were happy with it. But then we found out after launching that their conversion rate was cut by more than half. And we couldn't really understand why people were going to the checkout, but not actually finishing the purchase. So we went and set up Hotjar and we collected a bunch of data. We then looked over all of the videos and we realized, and watching the videos, that the checkout process was slightly different. And there was, I forget exactly what it was, but there was a part of that process that wasn't quite as clear as it used to be. So then we set up we switched it, the checkout process, we just slightly changed it. And then we found that the conversion rate actually then doubled what it originally was. So there was just this small little thing that people were getting hung up on in the checkout process, which was preventing them from moving along, where the only way that we would have been able to really find that was actually watching them and seeing, oh, wait, seems to be a continuous pattern where, oh, let's try changing this. So again, this is a tool that you can get a free account. It's really helpful, and it allows you to be able to see what people are doing. And I guess we got a few more minutes here. So another thing that I think is really another great tool, this is going to get a little bit more technical perhaps, but it's really, with watching a guide or something, it's really not that hard. But this is a tool that you can use in conjunction with the Hotjar. So let's just say it allows you to set up tests. So you can test, does this image perform better, or is there a different image? So maybe it's an image of, him working with a customer, or maybe there's an image of him and his receptionist standing at the desk, or maybe we want to see, does this button with book now, would it perform better if it said, set up an appointment, or if it was orange versus blue? A tool like Google Optimize allows you to go in, and it's actually very easy. It has it's actually quite simple to do, really. It's just, you got to get it added onto your website. But it allows you to set up those tests so that you can see which one actually performs better. This is, again, getting maybe a little bit beyond where people are right now, but for those here who might be kind of analytical and wanting as much data and insight as possible, that's a really helpful way of being able to see what actually performs better. And another example for how this type of thing works is a client that I used to work with. It was actually Oxford Learning. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Oxford Learning. And the agency I was working at, we developed, they wanted us to rebuild their website, but they wanted to change kind of their, not the brand necessarily, but just like the look and feel of the website. And we weren't really sure which design to go with. So we set up a test, and we had 3 different versions, and we ran traffic to all 3 of those versions. And we found out that the one performed significantly better than the previous one. So now if you were to go to the website, their site has taken on that design. So it's about making decisions that are informed and that are educated, not just guessing, again, because you might have an idea of what people want, but what they actually want might be different. So just another thing to kind of keep in mind as maybe more in the future. But again, if you're feeling a little adventurous and you're a bit analytical, a helpful thing to consider. So that's kind of all I had. I don't know if people have any questions. Feel free to ask. We've still got a little bit of time here, so and even if you have questions after the fact that come to mind, Jared can send my email, and you can feel free to shoot me an email. But yeah, I don't have anything else that I was wanting to go through. So if anyone has questions, feel free.
I have a question. Followed through and did a few of them on the side, and our site isn't doing so well on a lot of metrics. How important is it to be doing well in the beginning and versus sort of improving it regularly over time?
So like I said, kind of in the beginning, it is good to have a solid foundation. But at the end of the day, especially when you're in startup phase, you need to also be focusing on having a business and the day-to-day things of having a business. So it is a delicate balance where as long as your site is not like absolutely broken, I would say it's not like, okay, wow, I need to go and spend 10 grand and get this dealt with like tomorrow. It is focus. Make sure that you have like you need to have a business to be able to even have a website. So don't do all this and neglect the important things of actually running your business. I would say though, if there are things that can be addressed and can be fixed relatively quickly, I would say those things should be dealt with if you can. But don't freak out unless you're unless you have like literally something telling Google, hey, don't crawl my website, which none of you should have, but then there shouldn't be anything that is so grossly broken that is going to, destroy your business. The biggest thing that you need to be thinking of is your website helpful? Even if there are some technical hindrances, likely due to a third-party platform, content is king. And if you have helpful content, then that is going to carry a lot of weight. Like that is a really big, like that is a significant part of the equation with Google's ranking and their whole algorithm. Because at the end of the day, your site can be like technically pristine, but if it has garbage content that's not helpful, then you're no further ahead. So you're going to find there are some, like, still to this day, some really old websites that for certain terms, they're going to rank really high because for years it has just been like the de facto piece of content for that particular topic, that even though the website might not be the best, but it is just the most valuable, helpful thing. So again, all of these things, there's no perfect way of doing it. There's no perfect formula to follow, but if there's the biggest piece of advice I would say is have really good, helpful content that somebody would find valuable.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's all I've got. Jared, I don't know if there's anything else that you're wanting to go over.
No.
Otherwise, I can get the email. I can send a little bit later today all of the documents to everybody. And I just ask that when you have the documents, just make a copy of it. Don't edit the document templates themselves. Somebody had done that, I think, from the past cohort. So just make a copy of it so that you have your own. Otherwise, everybody's going to see your notes.
Awesome. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions for Jordan before we go? If there aren't any other questions, Jordan, thanks so much for your time. As Jordan said, you guys are welcome to reach out to him if you have questions along the way, because this is a journey. It's not just a process of just doing this once. So yeah, Jordan, thanks for the time. And for everyone else, I will see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.